My name is Justin Render. We are a row crop and cow calf operation in southeast Iowa. My wife and I started back in 2007. We've got about 500 acres of row crops. We run about 70 head of cow calf herd and been starting the kind of regenerative agriculture 6-7 years ago now. So the biggest thing I track is really the cost of production, more or less. I used to chase yield, and then I went to chasing margin. With that, cover crops came along with it because it was a way to save money. It sounds crazy, but with a livestock operation, it helps me feed longer in the season without buying inputs. They've gone up. We've had our ups and downs just because we've tried so many crazy things, but overall, the yield has gone, cost of production for the yield has gone up. Not necessarily my yields have gone through the roof, so to speak, but there's a lot of things I've learned through that. So like balancing, especially I've got high mag soils, so calcium, sulfur, two of the things that were neglected on our farm because we were primarily chasing NP and K beforehand. So learning that balance has allowed us to produce the same yield, so to speak, at a lot lower cost. So we typically, our 10-year average for corn here in Iowa, we've got pretty rolling hills. We're about, I think the whole farm average is about 58, 60 CSR. We typically run around 175. Some of the better fields, like last year we had a field that ran 244, so it varies depending on weather. Beans, we run high 40s, low 50s. We have seen all the way up in the 70s, but I wish we could recreate that, but I haven't been able to. Typically, we run in that 50 range for soybeans. So we back down. So I used to use around 250 units of nitrogen. Now we're down in like the 145 range. I think this year is going to be like 149 with our thiosol we put out. P, we're very low in P out here. So I used to put like 300 pounds down trying to build it up, and guess what? It never went up. Same way with K. We had always put K down. Not sure why, because really after looking at the balances, our K was on the really high side. But trying to get stuff more in balance, so bringing all those down. Although we did start spending money on sulfur and calcium, which has helped with the high mag as well as the nitrogen utilization. So I guess I was kind of an odd duck as well, because I started before I knew about Continuum Ag, just from research, personal research, and kind of quit all of the synthetics cold turkey besides nitrogen for 2 years when we started implementing cover crops, just to get the soil starting to function again. It was so, I'm going to say unhealthy. It wasn't broken, but it wasn't cycling, so to speak. So trying to get that soil to start cycling, and then utilizing cover crops with that, like I said earlier, helps. The livestock side of things is really kind of how I started, but then seeing the difference and doing some more research on what it does for soil health and how fragile our soils are, it just made sense. So we're always learning, and there's always things to overcome and things that I don't understand, like our corn on cornfield that I was talking about a little bit earlier. But just continuing to learn is really how I overcome. Based off our soil tests, a lot of them we're seeing that we need more broadleafs, more legumes added to it. And then what the soil needs at that particular time. But typically it's in correspondence to what crop's being planted after it. So the Haney test, for sure, that's actually how I kind of got in contact with Mitch, was looking for somebody that could do the Haney test on that. Like I said earlier, somebody to explain carbon nitrogen ratios to me a little better, to understand that aspect. Yeah, really, everything else is based around timing. I mean, really, just those two things were the biggest helpers for me when I started, but really it's timing more than anything, not necessarily a piece of equipment. It's knowing when to do something or not do something. Huge on the fertilizer side, as we talked about, but also, baselining where we're at, seeing if we're going the right direction, wrong direction. I mean, so far everything's been fairly easily understandable that we're going in the right direction. There's some things that change from year to year, and trying to understand why they changed or why they changed the way they did, but more or less just, helping that bottom line or the return on investment has been my biggest thing on what does the soil actually need, not what do you want to push onto the soil. So all around the nitrogen application, all of the dry synthetic applications have all been balanced base off of that, as well as, like I talked about earlier, adding calcium and sulfur to our mixtures. And then they have a lot of good suggestions on, like, percentage wise on what you should have for a broadleaf legume or grass for cover crops. And we've utilized all those quite significantly. And through that, we've seen our organic matters and water extracted carbon and all those go up. So I feel it's working, and your cost production continues to be at a margin where I'm comfortable with. So yeah, variable rate seeding, balancing my N rates. So we went from 250 units in, like I said, down to 149. Our NP and K, like I talked about earlier, what is the soil needing to get to our yield goals? And we don't have extreme yield goals. We stopped chasing yield, went more towards chasing profit. But then how do they balance, excuse me, or how do they correlate to each other? So having that data has been allowed me to slice and dice and change the way I manage, because it's at much more of a granular level than whole field level. Yeah, for sure. It's without a doubt, I would still be putting on extra fertilizer that's not doing any good, really, so to speak. The overall soil balance, learning, calcium, magnesium ratios, things of that nature has really helped me out a lot. Getting, variable seeding rates through topsoil, looking at my nitrogen rates through topsoil, all of those things have really helped. And then bouncing things off of people, give you guys a call and, what do you think of this? Is this nuts? Well, let's talk about it and figure out what the best plan, what you guys have seen work, because I'm kind of the odd duck in this neighborhood. There's not a lot of people around here to bump things off of. So we have that network from all over the United States. The biggest thing I get from Continuum Ag is the knowledge and the resources, and meeting people as you guys do events, and bumping into somebody and learning what they've done, and talking to Carolyn or Tucker or Mitch or whoever from there to get information when you need it, or even when you think you may have messed up on something. They've got ways or things to try to help redeem the situation. So we were really heavy carbon in front of corn. Well, we started trying wheat and veg mix in front of it, so it's a little bit less of a higher carbon crop and more of a nitrogen crop, to be able to break down quicker when that corn's going, so we don't have as much tie up in the springtime. So just things like that I don't necessarily know about, but learning through that networking process has been my biggest thing, to be honest. With the regenerative agriculture, there's lots of bumps in the road. There's going to be peaks, there's going to be valleys, but as long as you've got a good team around you, I think anything's accomplished.